Hey guys, this video is for the Optiplex 3070 small form factor. And this particular unit we have the PCIe NVMe SSD 256 gig chip for boot drive, for set up as the boot drive. And we have a caddy here. Here's the part number if you need to order it or grab it off eBay or something. X9C3N, and there might be some other part numbers, but just be careful about prior gens, like if it's the Optiplex 3060, 3050. Sometimes they change the way the hooks match into the metal portions of the chassis to slide in there nicely, or sometimes there's an extra lever that doesn't match quite if you get the wrong tray. Anyway, this is a 2.5-inch double adapter, so there's a drive on both top and bottom. No screws needed. You just bend the plastic and they slide right in there in the slots. So we'll just slide this right in. Just snaps right down, and we'll connect all those cables. Okay, all the cables are now hooked up. Okay, we'll power it on. And we'll come over here to the screen, we'll smash F12. Okay, that was quick, and here we have the first lie proven. If you go down here to device config, and we'll look at the RAID. This is the Intel Rapid Storage Technology. There's the version number, RAID driver. Yet here's the drives, but there's no option up here at all. No option up here at all. Anywhere to configure RAID or to create a RAID volume, RAID array. There's nothing. All you can do is just kind of look at the drives here. You can move up and down with the arrow keys. Hit enter, it'll tell you about the drive. Go down this one, tell you about the drive. Go down here, it'll tell you about the drive, but you can't, hitting the right arrow moves to this other part, the NIC controller, and tells you all about that. But that's it. Hitting left, right, nothing. And there's not any secret key on the menu to toggle, create RAID or array or anything. So that's the first part that confirms the lie. And normally this screen, as you saw me get into this, we got into it through the F12 menu upon boot up. And another way you think you might be able to get to the correct screen is by turning on the system, first configuring the system to go to non-UEFI mode, legacy BIOS mode, and booting it up that way, so you'll get the RAID controller to present to you the Control I option. That'll never happen. The Control I option is not there in UEFI or non-UEFI mode. Okay, let's escape out of here. And now we'll go to the BIOS. And everything's just default settings here. UEFI and secure boot mode. And SATA operation is RAID on right here. So the problem is this terminology. RAID being a interface, yet having the capability to do a RAID array is a totally separate question. So when you talk to the Dell techs, you look at the documentation, which has problems. You'll see the reference to RAID. Yeah, it does RAID. It has RAID built in. Yeah, but not being able to create RAID volumes and RAID 0, 1, 0, 1, 5, 10. So that's part of the problem, is the techs don't know. The techs, the two other models, this is the 3000 series, there's the 5000 and 7000 series. The 5000 series you can create RAID arrays, and the 7000 series you can create it. So the 3000 series, they just disabled it or have it in by not having it in the chipset, which we'll get to here in a minute. And you'll find out in forums and places that are telling you how to set up RAID that you'll go in here and just turn on just they'll always tell you just go in here and make sure to turn on the RAID feature. That's why you're not seeing the options. It's like, well, no, this is turned on, and I'm going to continue showing you that it's just not available. And you can hunt up and down this list all you want, advanced features, and you're not going to find anything related to RAID array setup in here. So okay, let's go ahead and boot up now. Okay, so now we're booted up into Windows 10. What I did on this computer here is I did a clean install of Windows 10, and I have all these drivers for the 3070. Oops, I'm sorry, let me go here. The 3070 here. Here's all the drivers: the chipset driver, Intel Management Engine, graphics driver. I updated the BIOS to the latest as of March 15th. Audio driver, Ethernet controller driver. This has no Wi-Fi options in it. And just for grins, I made sure that the SSD drive had the latest firmware on it. So I did that as well. And what's next here is I'm going to show you, I'm going to kind of back step here before stepping forward, just because it's the way I did things prepping for this video. But I went ahead, I was frustrated with the 3070 Intel RST drivers and interface, so I thought, well, maybe I know the features do work on the 3060. So I downloaded the two packages for the 3060, which is the slightly older interface, and I thought, well, maybe I'll have some luck there. So I installed these drivers, the driver and management console, and that's what's currently on the system over here, which I'm going to show you how it doesn't work. And so here's their interface. This is the slightly older interface, and basically you would normally come here and hit the manage button, and you could click on these drives here, and you could like join them and create a mirror. I think there was advanced down here maybe with enable or create drive array. It wasn't on any of these other buttons here. Possibly the status one had an option here to hit create. I can't remember if it's manage or status. Hit create, and you could right click here, I think, or create from this graphical interface over here right now. So what it does now is it just shows you everything and does nothing. And it's almost as if this is designed to have two Optane memory modules in here, and then it will allow you to create an array. So that's all this does. You can't create, you can just view. And then, so this is the 3060 software and driver. And now I'm actually going to uninstall it, reboot the system, and bring you to show you the 3070 interface. Okay, it's booted up, and I have uninstalled the 3060 older interface. And what's interesting is before I uninstalled it, it showed up in the programs and features here, and the 3070 software never shows up here after you install it. It actually shows up under programs, and the way you uninstall it is right clicking and uninstall through that method, not through the control panel. Okay, installing the 3070 driver first. Okay, restart. Okay, now it's up and installing the application. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, I'm not sure what happened there. Possibly this installing the driver invoked the app. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's in the menu here. So what it does is it comes up and it shows you the hard drives. It sees them, but everything's grayed out. It'll tell you all about them. It's grayed out. You can't, you can rescan it. So what? Shows you the boot drive stats, but you think, oh, create create RAID volume. There we go. But guess what? You can give it a volume name here. You can type over that. Type whatever you want here. And so, oh, well, the PCIe is the SSD single drive. I don't need that. I want the SATA drives. Everything stays grayed out. You can't click on it. You can't hit next. You can't. There's nothing in settings. All you can do is change notifications, about. You just can't make it happen. So, it basically doesn't work. And the weird thing about this is, if you go look at the chipset comparison here, you can compare this computer, which is the H370, to the 5000 or 7000 series, which has the Q370. And you scroll down to all the features here, and right here you have rapid storage technology, and up here you have the RAID, but it's reversed. It's kind of like, well, there's that SATA, there's the PCI to handle Optane memory or PCIe memory, and here's the SATA RAID 01510, but it's under the 370 chipset, and this should be in this column saying, hey, you can't set up a RAID or volume here, but you can in the 5000 and 7000 Optiplexes that have the Q370 chipset. So I don't know if this is part of the confusion when you call Dell techs, or they're misinformed, because I've looked on forums where they at first they're talking to people and saying, oh, this is there must be a problem with the chipset or the RAID setup, and then they come back later and say, we've confirmed this and you will have to escalate your issue, and it's like they never resolve it. So I'm telling you, the bottom line is the 3000 series doesn't do the RAID arrays, and the 5 and 7000 series does do it. So the Dell's answer is you buy the $5,000 or $7,000 series Optiplex, but the short solution is you use Windows to create your RAID array. So right click on PC, manage, go to disk management. There's my two disks. They're not initialized, so this is the initialize screen. If you already had them formatted, initialized in another computer, this screen won't come up because it'll already recognize them. So that initializes the two. Then now they're here initialized, but no partitions, or not formatted yet. And I'm just going to right click on one of them and create a new mirrored volume. You can click on either one, and it's like new mirrored volume. Oh, let me back up here. If you install your system with the SSD and you have the first and the two physical drives are unplugged, the SSD drive is here. It will be showing as disk 0. Then when you add the other two drives, it'll be 0, and 1 will become the physical drives, and this will move to disk 2. I always thought it would stay disk 0 once you initialize the OS on there, but it doesn't. Okay, so right click here, mirrored volume, wizard next, and basically it included 0, disk 0, and when I'm going to add disk 1, that's going to be my mirror, and hit next. I'll just allocate everything to it. Hit next, drive these fine, and NTFS is fine. I'll do a quick format on there too. Finish. It's warning me that if I ever need to use this mirrored set as a boot volume, it won't be able to. And I'm just using it for data, which should be most people's applications. And it's working on formatting. Boom, it's healthy, and there they are. There's D. Click on PC, and there's D. And sure enough, it's the 320 gig minus a little bit overhead. A single volume with two drives, and let's create a new Save it. Okay, there it is. Okay, so what did we just do here? We created a software RAID. Basically, it's Microsoft Windows 10's, algorithms creating that RAID array, and I don't know if that's much faster or performance-wise than a chipset RAID. I mean, the chipset RAID is basically still just software. It's not like a server RAID controller that costs $300 to $1,000 for the hardware controller that just is a performance machine. These are just desktops, so I don't know how much faster it would be with the 5000 or 7000 series. The downside here is your drives are now you have to boot up the operating system to manage the RAID or break the RAID or rebuild the RAID, whereas if you had it on the chipset, then it can be done prior to booting the OS, and you can manipulate new drives to repair a broken mirror within the controller of the chipset, so the interface of the chipset. So that's one difference. And I did want to, in case you guys were wondering about this one other part number here, this part number right there, let me zoom in on that. That's the part number for that cable that gets you the Y connection to hook up two drives. And also this is the 3000 series, so this is the one without an optical drive. But if you did have an optical drive, it could be sitting in there, but you just would have no SATA ports to plug it in, because you'd be borrowing one of the SATA ports that was used by the optical drive to get your second hard disk in here, because this only has two SATA ports. The 5000 and 7000 series has 3 SATA ports. Okay, I have one other little tidbit piece of information. It's not related to the 3070, but in older generations and possibly the new ones, I haven't actually checked it out yet, but it probably is in the micro series, such as this 9020 here, which the series, the 9000 series went away. It became the 7000 series about 7 years ago, I think. And so what you can do on these micro towers, because there's only space in there for one physical hard drive, but they have the chip, the SSD chip socket in there, M.2 chip socket. And so what you can do is you can actually create a RAID array using an SSD and a physical hard drive, which I've done. And it works perfectly. Of course, you're kind of losing the speed of the SSD. You're kind of, it's going to only be as fast as the physical hard drive, but it is doable in a micro tower. So if you have micro towers, again, it has to be not the 3000 series. You got to have that chipset enabled in there to do the RAID. And if you do, you can do an SSD and a physical drive and mirror them. And you could do the same thing here. It's kind of abusive because you're kind of degrading the performance. You got the SSD chip in there, but now you've downgraded it to the speed of a regular hard drive if you match those up. But I have set up several of these, and I've had drive failures, and my clients keep operating their business using the machines, and then once every month or so I check in and I find, oh, there's a drive that failed in there. I contact them and let them know, hey, do you want me to replace it? And then they don't have any downtime, so it really works well. And one of the story about kind of doing that is if it's a setup like that and you wanted to, so let's say one of the drives died, you wanted to pull it out and just convert it to a single drive, the mirror would still have to be in place, reporting the fact that it's a broken mirror, a failed array, degraded array. If you wanted to then say, oh, okay, this is an older machine, let's just pull out the dead drive and let it keep operating on a single drive scenario, you can't convert it to a single. If you disable that mirror, that RAID, you then have to reinstall the operating system. So that's a little factoid you might find handy at some point. So hopefully I've answered all your questions and on this topic, and if you got any comments or questions, enter them below and I'll hopefully know the answer. I've done, probably over 2,000 systems over the years, and I know a lot, but I don't know everything. So anyway, hopefully we'll have some good discussions on this topic. Thanks for watching.